Go ahead. So, so I was just a young kid, and I desired just to save a life. And I went to volunteer for a year and a half in the back of an ambulance from the age of 15 to 16 and a half. I was at least twice a week for 8 hours in the back of an ambulance. And then one day we get a call in Jerusalem of a child 7 years old choking while having lunch. And the mother called hysterical, and we got the call dispatched to us. So we responded, and the driver was driving really, really fast, trying to avoid all the traffic. But we ran into terrible traffic, and we got there 21 minutes after this kid choked. The mother was screaming and crying, "Save my child, save my son." And we did everything possible. And then a few minutes after we started CPR, a doctor passed by and saw the ambulance parked there. So he ran upstairs to help us. And after like 30 minutes of working on this child, the doctor says, just bring a sheet to cover him. We can't do anything. That moment was the worst moment of my life, seeing a child just dying, waiting for us to help him. And we were there to help, but we couldn't get there fast enough. And that moment, I realized that ambulance are very, very important, but if they don't get there in time, they're not going to save people. So I thought about this idea of getting volunteers to respond before ambulances, people from the community, like that doctor who came to help us. If he would have known about it 21 minutes earlier, he would have saved someone. And I went to the ambulance organization, like Individual where I volunteered, and I offered them to do this, and they said, no way, it's going to happen. This is, if someone calls for help, he must get an ambulance. This is how it works. This is how it works everywhere in the world. If people have to wait, they wait. This is how things are. So I was stuck with my idea. How do I implement it if I don't have emergency calls routed to us? So I decided to use some Israeli innovation. Then, this is 33 years ago, called chutzpah. And I said, if they don't want to share the calls with us, we're going to get it without their permission. And we went ahead and we bought police scanners, these walkie-talkies. I had some bar mitzvah money from left from what I got, gifts, and I went ahead and I bought 2 police scanners in Radio Shack. And we brought it into Israel, and we started tapping into their emergency calls or the ambulances. We heard everything they were dispatching, all the emergencies, addresses, and what's going on. So that's how we started. And the first emergency was a 70-year-old man who was hit by a car. I ran to the emergency location. It was 30 seconds away from where I was. And I got there. The man was on the floor. I started treating him. I needed to stop his bleeding. I couldn't stop his bleeding because it was a very bad bleed from his neck. And I took off my yarmulke off my head, and I folded it, and I pushed it in as much as I could. And then eventually it stopped bleeding, and an ambulance came 20 or 25 minutes later, took him to the hospital, and I thought he's not going to survive. And then 2 days later, I get a phone call. They said, are you Eli Beer? I said, yes. They said, my father was saved by you. He woke up this morning in Hadassah Hospital, and we want to thank you for saving his life. And I started crying. This was like the best moment of my life. After a year and a half in the back of an ambulance, I finally saved someone. So I went to visit him, and he gave me this incredible hug. And he said, thank you for saving me. And then when he took his hands off me, I saw he had a number on his arm. And that number with the letters changed my life. And I realized how easy it is to save someone if you get there fast enough, and you do simple things. You don't have to be a professor. You could just come and save someone by stopping his bleeding. And then the doctor comes into the room and says, are you the kid who saved him? I said, yes. And I was very proud of myself. And he says, well, you should just know this man was on Coumadin, which is a blood thinner. And if you didn't stop him on time, he wouldn't have survived. After 2 or 3 minutes, he would have been dead. Second thing I recommend, I heard you use the yarmulke. Next time you need to stop bleeding, buy real bandages. Don't use the yarmulke. So I got the recommendation, and I went ahead and I bought some bandages, and that's how we started. We said we want to get to every emergency within 90 seconds when it could still make a difference. And we were 15 volunteers, passionate, was full of chutzpah. We didn't let anyone stop us. Every day we would run to emergency calls, arrive there within seconds. and wait for the ambulance. And eventually, when they came, we gave them the patient alive.
Wow. Wow. So, oh my goodness. Now, why do you think there's a need for rapid response emergency care specifically in Israel? Do you think it's specifically solely needed in Israel?
Well, you need it everywhere. You need it. I don't know how many of the listeners now could stop breathing for more than a minute. I doubt. What about 2 minutes? What about 3 minutes? An ambulance response in Israel would take then more than 15 minutes in average. And when we started, um, even if it takes now 9 minutes, it's still 8 minutes too much. We want to get to someone within the first 90 seconds. That's our goal. So that's why it's so important that volunteers who don't get paid, who don't have any motive instead of besides just doing the good deeds, will be on the field. It's like very much like it was a very disruptive idea of volunteers who wanted to change how people get saved, or change the fact that people should get saved. Because we would get to many emergencies as ambulances, and the people were fine. They just needed a transport. That was good. But if people were not breathing, there was no chance we would save them, because the time we got there is like brain damage or dead. And that makes a difference. The difference between a regular ambulance system and United Hatzalah is 12 minutes.
Wow.
And that means the world.
And all of these amazing volunteers, where did they get their training?
We originally we started with training by we were training the ambulances in Jerusalem or other cities, but now we train our own volunteers. We train about 1,000 people a year to train them to become volunteers. It takes a process of almost a year. It's 6 months of training and another 6 months of internship to make sure these volunteers know what they're doing. Once they are fully qualified and they do enough emergency calls with more experienced people, they can go on the field on their own. And then they start saving lives on their own. Think about it. I don't know if you have, I think you have Uber in Toronto, right?
Yeah.
It's very much like Uber that, it used to be when you went to the airport, you used to have to call the car service and, in advance and let them know when you need a car. And sometimes it would take a while to get. Today, you would just press a button, some random guy with his own personal car takes you to the airport. That's the whole idea of United Hatzalah. We unite communities all around Israel, volunteers. Today we have 6,000 plus volunteers from different societies, different religions, men and women, Christians, Muslims, and Jews, and Druze, and everything in between. The most religious volunteers, the most secular volunteers, they connect together in this mission of a mitzvah of saving a life. It's a real tikkun olam. And they run so quickly that you can't imagine that these people, they get nothing in return. They just get the good deeds. And that's why we succeed, because it's a fleet of people who are like angels of life.
Yeah. I just want to tell our listeners, our viewers, if you have questions, please just type them right into the chat. If you don't know how to do that, wait till the end and just give me a big wave in my face at your camera and we'll call on you. But if you can send us questions at any time, but we will take questions towards the end. So Eli, can you describe your model totally and let us know how is United Hatzalah different from Magen David Adom? Because I think when people think of ambulances in Israel and medical help in Israel, it's Magen David Adom.
So initially, when we started, Magen David Adom had only ambulance services. So when someone called for help, they would get an ambulance. Now, in Jerusalem, for instance, we had 9 ambulances in service during a shift of 8 hours. So if all the ambulances were available, let's say they had more than 9 emergencies, so they would have to bring an ambulance from outside of town, let's say from Beit Shemesh or another city that would arrive. And it matters how lucky the person that needed an ambulance was. If you were lucky, you got an ambulance in a few minutes. If you weren't, you would get an ambulance sometimes in 30 minutes. And the idea of United Hatzalah was to fill in the gap between an emergency happening until Magen David Adom shows up. That was our initiative idea, and this idea did so well. And in the beginning, we had a very big reaction from Magen. They didn't like this at all because they had a monopoly, more or less. Magen David Adom is not a government organization. Like in some countries, the government have an ambulance system put in place. They had more or less, the responsibility, but it wasn't a government responsibility. It was a private entity of a union controlled by unions. So it really was basically, if you need help, you need to pay for it. Magen David Adom is not a free service. So a lot of people basically would have to wait for service. And when they ever got service, they sometimes, got into a problem if they don't have money to pay. If the insurance didn't pay, Kupat Cholim don't pay, they have to pay from their own pocket. Hatzalah, United Hatzalah came as a fill-in response within the first minutes for free, literally free. So people sometimes, they didn't need to go to hospitals. They just needed someone to give them oxygen or check their blood pressure. Or sometimes they have a child with an asthma attack who's a chronic situation. They can't fix it. It just happens once in a while. Once you fix it that time, you don't have to go to a hospital. You save that child to go to a hospital. Or an old lady who has some medical problem, you save it. So 30% of the emergencies that we would respond ended up with people that didn't have to, that a lot of them don't have to go to hospital. And that's a beautiful part. We're not driven by transport, where transport costs money. And that's a very important thing. So now other organizations around Israel started implementing our idea. So we have more volunteers in other organizations too.
Well, you were talking about how Magen David Adom is a private organization. I know people who send their kids to Israel. They pay money to Magen David Adom for the kid to have an experience. Do you have any? I mean, in my day, we would go to kibbutz. That was our thing. But does United Hatzalah have anything where Canadians or North Americans or Australians, Europeans can give money to United Hatzalah for the kids to be part of this and get an education about what you do?
Yeah, so we started a program with NCSY. They have a lot of, I think they have 2,000 kids a year that come to Israel. This year we'll have about 100 come to United Hatzalah to do training. It's an NCSY program with United Hatzalah, and it's a really interesting course. And they actually get to ride on ambulances and save lives. We actually had a lot of emergencies. These kids save people. It's aged from 15 to 17. So it's a good age. And then we're going to start more in the future for older ages to come and spend some time in Israel. It's a beautiful experience. Magen David Adom have a beautiful program as well. I mean, they do it for many, many, many years. We just started it like 3 or 4 years ago, and we're very successful with it. But our model is a little different than Magen David Adom, because Magen David Adom is mostly ambulances and ambulance stations. We are volunteers. We have over 1,000 motorcycles. We have 5,000 private vehicles. So the idea of United Hatzalah is to have someone jumping out of his Shabbat table or shul or work to go out to call. So the model is very different.
Wow. Okay. Mel Perlmutter, thank you. I just was informed that the chat has been disabled, and I'm sorry about that. I have given you all the ability to unmute yourself. So we will be doing verbal questions. I just, for some reason, I can't find the place to enable the chat. That's never happened before. So I do apologize for that. But let's keep on going. It must be because you're making me nervous. Usually I'm here by myself. Yeah. Okay. So when you first launched this, what did people think about the idea of United Hatzalah? You started with 15 people. Did people think you were nuts? How was it received at the beginning?
People thought I'm a sugar. Now they know I'm a sugar. Then they were just wondering, is he a sugar or not? I mean, you need to be a crazy sugar to do this, because otherwise you're not going to jump with pajamas 3 o'clock in the morning and help someone that you don't even know. I mean, a lot of people, if they want to, they sleep at night. They don't want anyone to bother them. We sleep at night. We want to be bothered. You have a problem, we're going to be there, no matter what time, night or day. If it's snowing or raining or a beautiful sunny day, we're going to be next to you and help save your life or make it even better for you if you need. Sometimes it's a 90-year-old lady who's on the way to the toilet in the middle of the night and she falls. And if she has to call an ambulance, she didn't have who to call for. That poor lady would end up in the hospital, because ambulances usually want to take you to the hospital. We will have a volunteer or two, or sometimes three, come to this lady and help her get up, get her back in her bed, get her a glass of tea so that she could go, have a, not always you have to end up in the hospital. My mother's 91 years old. I know sometimes she doesn't feel well. I would say 95% of the time she just needs a little attention. She needs someone to help her, relax a little. And that's a beautiful mitzvah to do, people. And we do this every day and night. We go out to 1,700 calls a day. You're talking about volunteers who are doing it, and they go into the most dangerous areas. They go, last week, you all saw us on TV. You saw our volunteers with the jackets going to, these emergencies and put their life in danger. And it's just incredible to see what happened with this organization. Just a small dream of saving one person turned out to a dream that saves hundreds of thousands.
Wow. Now, I saw the video, and everyone who is on the Song Shul e-blast list should have received, you can click on it to see the video of how the motorcycles come around. It's absolutely mind-blowing, really. But I'm wondering, let's say the guy on the motorcycle gets to you within 90 seconds and the person he reaches needs to be taken to the hospital. You can't take an old lady on a motorcycle. What do you do then?
First of all, you'd be surprised. They love it. I took quite a few 90-year-old ladies on a motorcycle, but including my mother once. We're good riders, we're good drivers, but I could say that we wait for the ambulance. Whenever the ambulance arrives, that's the difference. The treatment doesn't have to start when the ambulance comes. The transport should start immediately. So we come before we stabilize, we treat, and eventually when the ambulance comes, we have over 100 ambulance companies in Israel. Over 100. We're not trying to replace any one of them. They come, they treat, we come and treat, they come and take them to the hospital. And that's the beauty. It always was, many, many years ago, they never had ambulances. The doctor used to come schlep for a few hours, or like sometimes an hour or two, to go to a village to treat someone, right? That's how it was in Europe or even in America many, many years ago. If you see Little House on the Ferry, right? If you remember Little House on the Ferry, that's how it was. The doctor went to the carriage and went to treat someone. They went to call him and then he had to come, and then they invented the ambulance. The ambulance came and said, wow, we come with someone who's a nurse or EMT, and we treat them and take them to the hospital. But we came in and we invented the new way of getting sick, pre-ambulance service. The ambulance was a pre-hospital service. We are a pre-ambulance service. We are the neighbor next door. We are the passenger. We're the driver passing by your neighborhood and getting the emergency and showing up in your door. And that's the beautiful part about it.
Wow. Kayla, I'm not sure if you're raising your hand. Give me 1 second and you'll be the first question. Eli, I'm thinking about the sheer number of volunteers that you have. You have over 6,000 volunteers. Do you think there is something specific in Israel that makes people want to volunteer? I'm trying to think, if we were to bring that to Canada or to the States, I can't imagine such a huge body of people who would be that eager to volunteer. Do you think there's something in Israel that is more appealing, more conducive to the whole volunteer movement?
I think it starts from the army in Israel. The fact that Israel, everyone has to go to army, it's really a volunteer service, but you must do it. and they have different ways of doing the army. I know my son is 17 now. He's running every day and getting himself in shape. He doesn't, he wants to go into a good unit for 3 years, and then every year to go for a month to the reserves. And it starts very young in Israel. So it's part of the DNA of the Israelis of volunteering. You see Israelis all around the world volunteering and helping. They have a disaster, we're the first ones to show up. And I think this is one of the beautiful things of Judaism. And I think it's not only in Israel, it's Jews everywhere. We were always or goyim. Let's be the first ones to help. Let's be always the Kiddush Hashem aspect. And I think United Hatzalah really resembles the goodness of Israel and the goodness of the people living there and the goodness of Jewish people. Now, the funny part is we in United Hatzalah have 550 Arab volunteers or non-Jewish Muslims and Christians and even Arab women. We have one Arab woman. I would love if Rachel could send you the link. We had a beautiful story about an Arab woman. Rachel, please send the link to the shul, because that story I was blown away. She was dreaming to become a doctor, but her family did not let her. A very religious Muslim living in Kfar Qasim. She wanted to be a doctor. Her family did not let her go to university. And she found one day, someone told her that United Hatzalah wants more volunteers, and she registered to become a volunteer. She saved so many lives now. Her story is just incredible. And she's an Arab Muslim. And then what about ultra-Orthodox women in Israel who become volunteers in this organization? This is an amazing hub for goodness. And we get probably over 2,000 people a year that register to become volunteers. They want to join in. We are very selective. We want to know where you live. We want to know what you do. We want to know you're in the right place. We don't want to take 100 people living in the same street. We want to, we want to diversify. We want to have a network of enough people to respond quickly to emergencies. So we choose, but we could have easily more volunteers every year, like 2,000 more. Now we just join about 500 a year.
Wow. Okay. I believe the chat has been fixed. So feel free to type your questions. I realize some people are hiding behind their screens because they didn't put on their makeup. It has not been fixed. Sorry. I'm going to, Kayla, please unmute yourself and you can ask your question. I just want you to know we're coming back to you, to me and you, Eli, because I do want to have you share some of your challenges, some of your vivid experiences. And I know that Eli is also going to talk a bit about the Lag BaOmer tragedy a week ago. So Kayla, go ahead.
I don't know. Can you hear me? Oh,
yes.
My question was, excuse me, the 90-year-old woman who you were able to help out, how did she contact you? How do people, do you have a telephone? You have a special number? I mean, how do they get you? Find you?
Great question. Actually, for years, we had a hard time for people to know who I am, but now we are a disruptive organization. We had to actually fix the system. There isn't a 911 in Israel, unfortunately, because everyone wants to have control over their organization and they want to keep the information to themselves. We went to the government and begged them to force the ambulance services in Israel to share the calls with us. If some emergency comes to Magen David Adom or Shachal or Natali or Hadera ambulance or any company, they should share the calls with us. And it was a long battle, but now we have calls coming in from all the ambulance companies, almost all the ambulance companies to us. The second thing is we got a number. The government gave us a 4-digit number that people could call us directly, which was very, very helpful. So we have between 15 to 2,000 calls a day, and we get it from, I would say, 75% from ambulances and 25% directly to us. 1221 is our number in Israel.
I'll remember that.
1221.
Yeah. So Eli, how about, I have a lot of questions here, but how about sharing with us some of your biggest success stories? I think we need some good news here.
Well, I have every day, so many incredible success stories. I could tell you about just about before I left Israel, I was sitting at Shabbat table with my family. I have in my home my success, my personal success is that I have my wife Gitti, my oldest daughter Abigail, my second daughter Penina, her husband Uri, my third daughter Libby are all volunteers in United Hatzalah. So when I started this, everyone in my family used to see me go out to emergency calls, and I would leave the Shabbat table and come back an hour later with a big smile on my face that I saved someone, and I used to tell them the story, and they got jealous. My wife became a volunteer 7 years ago, so her life changed. Gitti, my wife, she was all of a sudden she's starting to save people, and she felt amazing. My older daughter. So personally, my success is my children want to follow my ways. But just before I left the country, I'm in San Francisco now, by the way. So we had a call. Our neighbor had a cardiac arrest on Shabbat, and three of my kids went there, and I didn't go because they're so good. They don't even need me, and they're much younger. They could get there faster than I run. So they actually saved that person's life, a young man in his 40s, and they saved his life. And they came back with such a smile, and they did a CPR, and they did everything what was supposed to, use a defibrillator. And they told me, my daughter says, I didn't save this guy's life. I saved his children's life. This children, she saw the children crying in the other room while they were working on him. She says, Abba, I saved the children's lives. And I think, I hear the stories every day from other volunteers, and I hear incredible stories of heroism. And I look at my own personal life and I say, what a lucky guy I am that my children love what I do and want to devote their life to become volunteers. It's not their job. They have jobs. One of my daughters, she works for the government. She's a lawyer, and she goes out to calls, and every one of them just dedicates their day and night to be on call for emergencies.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I believe the chat has been enabled because we have a few questions here. So the first question is this organization, United Hatzalah, related to Hatzalah around the world? And I'm not sure if by Hatzalah around the world, you mean the Hatzalah, which is the Orthodox truck, that ambulance that drives around Toronto. Eli, do you know the answer to this? Hatzalah, are you related to this?
So Hatzalah, which is the Orthodox communities around the world, adopted this model from city to city to city. Actually, the first model was done in Brooklyn, in Williamsburg, the Satmar Hasidim. They did a wonderful job in their communities, and they're very, very good. Our model is a little different and completely separate than everyone else. It's not or by us, it's like we have the most secular Jews in Israel, men and women volunteering, and non-Jewish volunteers volunteering. And it's beautiful to see this. It's a beautiful model. And the idea of motorcycles came up from us, and the technology. So we are very different in how we operate and who we operate with. I love when I hear a story of a Hasidic Jew volunteering in United Hatzalah saving a non-Jewish person. I think this is what Israel is all about. So we do a great job in Israel, and they do a great job in their communities. Our idea now is to spread this this idea should be spread everywhere. So we started this in Jersey City. In a city, there is not a lot of Jews there, and they have a lot of difficulties there. Some areas are very dangerous. They copied our model. We helped them design it, and now they operate it on their own. So we helped a lot of different places to do that. And now we're helping India to start it, and many other places. They started on their own. Our responsibility is really Israel, and that's where our focus is. All our funding that we raise money for goes to Israel, but we share the knowledge with the world.
Incredible. We have a bunch of questions we're going to get to in a moment. I know that United Hatzalah every year on Lag BaOmer you have people there on Har Meron because you anticipate the crowds. Can you tell us a little bit about this historical, horrible tragedy from last week, Lag BaOmer?
This is one of the worst days of the organization. We went through a lot. I personally was treated over 50 terror attacks, my own hands. I was there treating people, and many terrible incidents, and even the Versailles wedding hall, which was a very bad event. We had 300 people injured and 23 people killed. We have a lot of incidents that are really, really bad, but this one was, you saw it on the news. This was a terrible, terrible event that could have been prevented completely. And every single year that we went to Meron, we go, over 300 people of ours go to help out. And they sit there for hours helping people. We treat lots of people, heart attacks and accidents and different things. Every year we do a l'chaim. We do a big l'chaim. We take a glass of wine and we make a l'chaim for the miracle that we didn't have any dead people in a thing like this every year. This year was the first time we didn't have a miracle. Every year it was about to happen. And we always yelled and screamed because people are passionate about Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. People want to be there. Lag BaOmer is a very special day for Am Yisrael. And people want to be in Meron. People want to all dance there and enjoy the spiritual moments. But unfortunately, this thing happened, and it was the worst because we had 45 people dead on the spot, and another 150 people injured. And it was so difficult to transport out of there. We had one person yelling to one of our volunteers, grab my son, I want him to be saved. And he threw his son to the volunteer, and he caught him. And then this man disappeared in the crowd and died. And this is the type of stuff our volunteers. I just spoke to a volunteer before. I was talking to him on the phone, and he's 3 days laying in his bed. He can't go out of his bed. He's so destroyed. I said to him, Jewish people always went through difficult times in history. We went through the horrors of the horrors, but we never let ourselves destroy our lives because of the horrors. We always said, let's build ourselves for the future. I said to him, whatever you saw before, you have to remember it, but you have to go on, continue. We're trying to help them. We have psychotrauma units, volunteers who are helping to deal with this trauma, helping these volunteers to cope with this. This is a very hard moment for all of them.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Shouldn't know. Okay, we're getting back to the questions from the viewers. How do you contact the volunteers who are nearest the incident?
About 15 years ago, we came up with this technology before iPhone even. This was in Java systems. Of any emergency, the closest paramedics get an alert saying someone next to you is in trouble. And we developed this ourselves. We were way before everyone else, before Uber, before everyone. And it was just incredible to see how it was developed. It was a very, very sophisticated technology. It had over 200 algorithms that were calculating who is the closest, who has the right equipment, who has the right knowledge, traffic, and etc. And we were building it, and it took many, many years. And we have an incredible system that now locates the closest 5 volunteers, sends them an alert to their phone, and they run out to save lives. And if it needs more volunteers, it keeps calling. It's what helps us get there so quick.
Amazing. Are you ever concerned about liability issues in case something goes wrong? Does your organization have special insurance for your volunteers?
Well, the nice part about Israel is that you don't have the problems that the United States have. I don't know about Canada, but in the United States, people sue for anything, anything. The doctor, you can't save everyone. Some doctors, they try their best and they get sued, and they pay a lot of money for insurance. We don't get sued. We are an organization that treated, over 5 million people since it started, and never, one time we had a lawsuit from many, many years ago that was settled. We have mistakes done, of course, because we're human beings, but the mentality in Israel is not that type of mentality. So we do have insurance, but that's not, such an expense. The insurance we do pay a lot of money for our ambucycles. We invented that motorcycle ambulance. We have over 1,000 of them. So that we have to insure because we had one volunteer killed a couple of years ago on the way to emergency call. And we always worried, about these kind of things. So we have insurance for that, but not for liability as much.
Yeah. How do you recruit volunteers? Do you go out in high school to the Army, and how do you actually recruit the volunteers?
So in some cities, it just goes from word to, like people talk about it and everyone wants to join, and we have a lot of people, too many people want to join. In some cities, we have to actually put ads in the Facebook and Twitter. Everything today is in social media. And that's how we recruit mostly. But a lot of Army people that finished the Army want to join us because they did the Army, they were EMTs or paramedics in the Army, and they learned it. They know how to do it, so they want to continue. So we have now like 200 volunteers from the Army joining in the next few weeks. And it's a lot of training for them too. They have to learn new things. They don't know how to deliver a baby. They learned about it, but they don't know how to do it because they never did it in the Army. You don't deliver babies. They don't know how to treat an old lady with a heart attack. They learn, but they don't have it, in their system. Thank God in the Army they don't deal with heart attacks as much. So we train more and more volunteers that people who were in the Army, they know mostly trauma, and we give them all the knowledges, and then they become volunteers by us.
Wow. So this past year has been an exceptional one as far as COVID. I know that you were all over the place because meaning all over the news, because you yourself were very, very sick. Tell us what happened with that.
About a little over a year ago, I was in Miami, and I didn't feel well. I ended up 3 days later in a hospital. I couldn't breathe. Doctors tried helping me, and 3 or 4 days after that, I got to the hospital in the ICU, and I was one of the first patients in the ICU. And this is March 2020, and the doctor said they have to induce me into coma and put me on a respirator, on a ventilator. And it was the worst moment. I had to say goodbye to my children, and I called my wife and kids to say goodbye. It was very, very hard. I sent a message to everyone that this is a real thing. People should know COVID is not a game. People were taking it, it's not going to happen to us. It's happening in China and other places, but not in America. It did happen in America. And I put a lot of awareness for it. I also asked people to support United Hatzalah. I thought I'm not going to survive. I had a 5% chance of survival, according to doctors that I spoke to. And I said, I have to at least make sure that this organization, United Hatzalah, continues its mission. And a month later, I woke up. I had a very big miracle.
Honest to God, that is a huge miracle. That is a huge miracle. So you're in California now. You were in Miami a year ago. How much time are you in Israel, and how much time are you not? I didn't realize that you were sick in America. For some reason, I thought it was in Israel.
I travel a lot. So my kids actually call me Avinu Shabashamayim.
Yeah, our Father who art in heaven. Yeah, there you are.
Yeah, I'm always flying in Shamayim.
Yeah.
I'm flying. I'm in Alala more than at home. So I travel because I have a mission to fulfill, and I used to speak in a lot of communities. I speak less now because of what I just spoke last Shabbat in Miami. I was back in Miami for a year yahrzeit of myself, my own yahrzeit almost. I spoke there. It was really beautiful, and then I spoke a week before in New York. And I do the fundraising part also. So I really have fun talking about United Hatzalah. I wear this vest 24 hours a day, sitting in the shower.
That is
so.
Yeah.
And I see all the work that is done in Israel, and it's just I'm still involved. I used to be more involved with operations, of course, in the beginning when I started it, but now I have incredible people running the organization. I just do the promotion.
Awesome. I just want to point out to everyone that, again, to get more information, just go visit israelrescue.org. And that's in the chat. You can see it. You can also contact Rachel, this lovely lady. Wave to us, Rachel, so we all see this beautiful face. Rachel is Rachel Har. She's Rachel H at israelrescue.org. And Rachel has also shared
And
with us.
Ilana Carr also.
And Ilana, wave
Yeah.
Ilana. Ilana, I apologize for not introducing you. Yes, thank you so much, Ellie, for reminding me. How rude of me. Wonderful having you both and all of the fantastic work that you do. You guys, please, if you have any more questions, now is your time. I mean, I have enough questions to keep this going for many, many hours. We have a comment. It is not a question. Ellie, what you do is so important. Yeah. I live in an area in Toronto where people do not know who you are, and I have been privy many times to see your good work. I actually want to make a comment about that because I think a lot of people do not know about United Hatzalah. I myself, and I'm involved in the Jewish community, obviously, I did not know the difference between United Hatzalah and, the little local guys who run around in the ambulances. What can we do? Obviously, funding must be of huge support, but what can we do to help let people know about this groundbreaking, trailblazing organization?
So first of all, what you're doing now is incredible. Spreading the word. We don't have we're a young organization and we don't have the resources to do advertising all over the news. Like a lot of organizations have the funding. They're 80 or 90, 100 years old. We're very young. So we need help from the communities, from people. Every one of you, go on the internet, learn more in israelrescue.org. Share it with your friends. I have a TED Talk I gave that brought a lot of recognition to the organization, and share that with people and say, you know what? They have incredible organizations in Israel. This is one of them. Learn more about it. We're a volunteer organization. We don't charge for none of the people that get help from us get charged. We need support from people because otherwise we can't do what we do. We have a program we started, which is amazing. People sponsor a day of life-saving in Israel. They actually choose a day, their anniversary, their yahrzeit or birthday, and they get an incredible book with every single emergency that happened that day. And it could be over 2,000 emergencies. Think about it. You read every call, where it happened, what happened there. And during the day, all the volunteers in Israel, they go out to calls. They know they're doing it in honor of someone. They get a message in our headquarters. We have their name displayed all day. It's a beautiful thing. We have people sponsoring ambucycles, these Hatzalah ambucycles, these ambucycles we have. They have their name on it. They get updates on it all the time, what it did, who it saved. And it's just a great feeling, even a defibrillator or an oxygen tank or a bandage. I started saving lives with my yarmulke. Now we don't save lives with yarmulkes anymore. We save lives with bandages, but we need bandages. We need more medical supplies. And the way of doing it is only spreading the word. And I'm so happy that I am in your community because I love Toronto. I love Canada. It's such a great place. And Israel was built because of you guys.
Yeah, there is something to that. Just with a yes or a no, if we go on your website, is there a breakdown of what it costs to sponsor a day or to sponsor the different things? Yes?
Definitely. Yeah. On our website, you could see it's really very simple, very transparent. You know what you're sponsoring, you know what you're getting. And yesterday, by the way, the Day of Miron was sponsored by someone I adore, and they sponsored Lag BaOmer. And I can't even tell you how they felt that they were part of everything. Everyone was looking on television and say, how can we help? That's how he could help. Help us sponsor the medical supplies and the activities.
Okay, and a Tachlis question. We're here in Toronto. Do we get a Canadian tax receipt for, yes?
Great question. Yes, of course. We have a tax deduction organization there. It's called Canadian Friends of United Hatzalah. I think
Yes.
Rachel could, yeah.
Wonderful.
It's on our website.
That's great.
Yeah.
So
And I want
not
your community to come to Eretz Israel one day, soon. You're all going to
Halavai,
be,
it should only be.
Amen.
it's
We're
going to
shut
be, I
down.
promise you.
Yeah, we can't go anywhere right now, but
Soon you're going
yes.
to come and
Yeah.
you're going to be in Eretz Israel. You're going to come visit our headquarters. It's incredible. It's a
Yes.
must visit.
So,
Anyone from your community who comes, we'll open our doors and show them the insides of it. It's unbelievable. People do bar mitzvahs by us. People do events. They come to see. People do bar mitzvah projects. And we will do something together for many years.
Fantastic. Well, you know, the Song Shul has the Song Shul Travel Club, and we take people, Cantor Simon and I, they're basically music, Jewish heritage tours. So we have Israel on the list when COVID is listed. I promise you, we will be bringing our group to meet you in Israel. God willing, we should all be well to be
Amen.
together. That would be a wonderful, wonderful thing for us to be able to connect with. Did something else just come in? Ah, very good. She's answered the questions. That's great.
thank you.
And I hope this question doesn't in any way diminish how phenomenal you specifically and personally are. But Israel, as a country, has become recognized all over the world as a startup nation. What is it about Israel that produces such innovators in all aspects of society, from healthcare to technology? I mean, Israel's way ahead of the curve with everything. So what do you think?
I think that, you know, I think it's not only Israel. It's, I think many Jewish people around the world, and look at the Canadian Jews too, are, you know, most of the Canadian Jews are people who came from Europe with nothing. Most of the Canadian Jews, and look at them today. The innovation, I think that people like to be, every generation wants their children to be better, and they educate their children, and they put a lot of emphasis on the future. And I think not living the past, remembering the past. And that's one of the things, remembering the past and not living the past, and going to the future. And that's, Israel's always thinking about the future. I think every kid grows up in Israel and says, I want to do that. I want to be a philosopher, whatever. I want to invent the best philosopher. I want to invent the best computer. People want to be the best in Israel. And I think it's our story of the Jewish people. And you can see it in the history. And now in Israel, it's just an amazing thing to see every day. More companies are selling to international companies, and growing. Israel's economy is incredible just because of that.
Yeah, fantastic. It is kind of time to wrap it up. Eli, I'm wondering, how long are you in North America? When do you go back to Eretz Yisrael?
I'll be back, Bezrat Hashem, for Shavuot, which is next Friday, right? Shavuot is next Friday or next Saturday night. I can't remember. But I'll be back Friday.
Wonderful.
You guys, you have
Wonderful.
a big services going on, you know, Shavuot and everything. So
Yeah, beautiful things are going on. Listen, all I can say, Rachel and Ilana, thank you so much for all your help in putting this evening together. Any of you who do get in touch with the local office, you will be delighted to deal with Rachel and Ilana. Eli, really, may you go from strength to strength. You should be blessed for this work that you are doing. May it spread around the world. We, of course, will do all we can to help get the word out, because this is embarrassingly the best kept secret. You are a phenomenal individual with an incredible, incredible success story. Thank God for United Hatzalah and for everything that your volunteers have been able to accomplish for the betterment of Klal Yisrael, Tikkun Olam. It's just miraculous. It really is. And thank you so much for being with us at the Song Shul. If you come to Toronto, come join us for Shabbat after COVID. We'd love to have you with us and share what we do.
I would love that. I would love, you have such a good energy, such a good personality.
We
would
do.
love to be with you.
Our Song Shul people, we have an amazing membership, wonderful, bright, young, enthusiastic, just eye-openers and eye-opening people. So it is true. It's a very, very wonderful, wonderful group of members at the Song Shul. They are what makes the Song Shul so spectacular. So I wish everyone a Laila Tov. I wish you all a good night. good health, please do not hesitate to reach out to the local office, and let's see what we can do to support United Hatzalah and help them to grow and to grow. Ellie, be well, be healthy, and the same to everyone. Thank you, Rachel and Alana,
Thank
and we
you.
hope to see you in person in good health, everyone. Have a
Thank you.
great
Thank you
night.
so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.